Imposter syndrome is the experience of believing that you are not as competent as others perceive you. Simply put, it's the experience of feeling like you're a phony. You feel as though at any moment you're going to be found out, people are going to think you're a fraud, like if you don't belong, like if you are an outsider, you're the person that doesn't fit in, like if you're just pretending to fit in. It can affect anyone, no matter their social status, their expertise, or skill level, or work history. And according to the International Journal of Behavioral Science, it is estimated that roughly 70% of people will experience imposter syndrome at one point in their lives. Some signs of this can include self-doubt, an inability to realistically assess your own skills and potential, attributing your success to external factors, berating your performance in anything, fear that you won't live up to expectations. It can even be seen as overachieving or biting off more than you can chew, sabotaging your own success, sabotaging yourself, setting very challenging goals, and feeling disappointed when you fall short of them. There are numerous factors and causes towards imposter syndrome, but there isn't one definitive one. But there are studies that suggest that imposter syndrome and social anxiety do overlap because they feel like they don't belong in social or performance situations. And if you are familiar with social anxiety, people that have social anxiety cannot be in social situations where there's a risk of themselves getting embarrassed or making a mistake or fumbling. And therefore, whenever in a circumstance where whenever they may be in a conversation with somebody, they will feel as if they're going to be found out, that this person isn't socially competent, that if you're feeling this way, they're going to be fearful of the fact that you are not necessarily there, you're not meant to be there, you're not talking as socially as you're supposed to, you're not fitting in, so to speak, and that you're delivering a presentation more than anything, and you need to feel like you just got to get through it. You feel like you're presenting and performing for this individual or for this crowd or for this event. You don't feel like you're yourself. You're a little bit out of yourself, and you just can't wait to get through it before anyone realizes that you don't really belong there, that you don't know what you're doing, if that makes sense. Like your brain is going to be telling you that you don't know what you're thinking, you don't know what you're doing, you're not doing well enough, and that's why that imposter syndrome sets in and gets triggered in situations such as those where you have to perform, when you know that you have to really push yourself to perform, or you really have to overachieve, or you feel like you really have to overexert yourself in order to prove that you aren't alien to them. You have to prove that you're not an outsider. You have to prove that you belong. It's exhausting for a person to have imposter syndrome because they feel like they're constantly having to work extra hard to get just as far, if that makes sense. But this also doesn't necessarily mean that everyone with imposter syndrome has social anxiety, or everyone with social anxiety disorder has imposter syndrome. As a matter of fact, it can cause typically non-anxious people to experience a sense of anxiety or a lack of self-confidence all of a sudden when in situations that trigger feelings of inadequacy, if that makes sense. Like, to really sum it up, it's the fear of inadequacy that causes the syndrome to really, really come out. And it can appear in a number of different ways. And I'm going to go through a couple archetypes of it because the different ways it shows up is the kind of role that you're presenting yourself. So if you have imposter syndrome, or you suspect you have imposter syndrome, it can manifest as these kind of characters in life, or these kind of performances that you put out there in order to be able to survive that social event. So the first one is a perfectionist. You are never satisfied and always feel that your work could be better. So rather than focusing on your strengths, you tend to fixate on any flaws or mistakes, no matter how big or no matter how minuscule. This often leads to a great deal of self-pressure and high amounts of anxiety. There's also the superhero. Because these individuals feel inadequate, they feel compelled to push themselves to work as hard as possible. There's the expert. They always feel like if they're trying to learn, they always have to try to learn more and more, and never satisfied with their level of understanding towards any topic matter. Even though they are often very skilled, they underestimate their own expertise. They'll undermine themselves a lot, no matter how prepared they are, no matter, even if it's a passion. That's how you'll know, because even if it's a passion, it's something that this person knows, it comes natural to them, they will still feel inadequate. They'll still feel like, wait, do I know everything? Or what if they think that I'm fake? Or what if they think I'm phony? That's when you really know, especially when it comes to topic matters that would come naturally to you as a passion. If you feel like you have to overperform in that, it's a sign that you may have imposter syndrome. Another one is the natural genius. So they set excessively lofty goals for themselves and then feel absolutely crushed when they don't succeed on their first try. Like they don't go through trial and error. They while they understand logically that you need to try, you need to practice at things, if they don't get it right away, they will feel crushed and they will be extremely hard on themselves. And last but not least is a soloist. So these individuals tend to be very individualistic and they prefer to work alone. So their self worth often stems from their productivity. So they often reject offers of assistance, they'll reject any help, they'll reject any input from other people for something that is pretty much a big task. And they take it on of themselves because they tend to see asking for weakness as a sign of weakness or incompetency. They'll confirm their worst fears if they ask for help or if they accept help. So they already feel inadequate, they feel like they're not competent to do the task. And then therefore if they ask for help or if assistance comes to them, they'll feel like it just confirms that fear that they have in them. So there are tips to overcome it though. You're not doomed if you have imposter syndrome. It's very normal. You just happen to be very hard on yourself. And you happen to feel a little disconnected from yourself because of the fact that you are pushing yourself to operate at 150% in a world that may feel like it asks that of you and may oftentimes ask that of you. I don't deny your experience, but it's the fact that you put a lot of pressure on yourself and you put so much pressure on yourself that you feel dissociated from your life. So there are tips to overcome it. You can first recognize that your feelings aren't facts. You need to recognize that your feelings are what they are, they're normal, and you need to allow them to be. But you need to understand that sometimes the thoughts that get triggered by those emotions, they're not true about yourself. This can very much happen, and this is very much a factor that is taken into consideration when you're anxious or depressed. Your thoughts that stem from your emotions aren't necessarily facts. So if we play a negative record over and over and over and over again, just don't forget that it is a record. It's a recording that doesn't have to control you. It will take time and energy to be able to jump that hurdle. It'll take time and energy to work on that, but just realize that when you make a mistake, that does not equate that you're incapable. It just means you're being human, and it just means that you didn't get it on the first try, and that's simply what it is. You don't need to add that extra negative talk to yourself or that judgment onto yourself or be that criticism. Another way is to talk about what's going on. I mean, that's a really sure way to release it so it's not bottled up within you, because if it gets bottled up within you, that inner critic gets fueled. And while this may sound really simple, a lot of us aren't taught to really express ourselves. A lot of us are taught to not express negative emotions too. We're taught to be ashamed of any negative emotions and then we need to push it away and just be a happy human being all the time. But if you actually release that, you can let it out. You won't let it store up. And a lot of times while someone with imposter syndrome won't do this is because they fear that the feedback will confirm what their belief is of inadequacy or incompetence. But when you express it, people will realize and be able to relate to other people that they're not alone. And if you especially can lean on a mentor or a trusted friend, that could provide a lot of clarity and relief until you have enough self-confidence and self-esteem to be able to provide that for yourself. Sometimes reaching out to a community and having a sense of community and togetherness and relatableness really does help support you on your journey until you feel completely confident in yourself and whole. Another and last big thing is to break negative thought patterns. So speak kindly to yourself, create a mantra you can repeat to yourself, something really good about yourself, something you love about yourself, something to reduce your expectations and your pressure. Keep failure in perspective. It's a normal part of life. It's not desirable, but it's a normal part of every process. It won't happen every time. It may happen a couple of times on other occasions, but just realize that it's a part of your human experience. Explore your core beliefs, focus on what you've learned, and question your thoughts. So when negative thoughts occur, ask, is this really true? That can help interrupt the habit of thinking negatively about our abilities. Keep a list of accomplishments and refer to them whenever you have those moments of doubt. And I hope that this will help you. I hope this helps you recognize what imposter syndrome is. And I hope this can actually get you past that, because it will make you feel like you're disconnected from yourself. It will tend to cause you to overexert yourself. But I hope that you can keep these negative thoughts at bay, especially because that's the root of it. That really is the root of it. And that you use a lot of self affirmations that can help get you through it and can help you stop undermining your own success and your own capabilities. And the most important thing is to realize you're not alone. Like, there's so many of us, we're all unique, but there's also a lot of things that we can share with each other. There's a lot of things that we meet up with. There's a lot of things that we can relate with one another. We are not as alone in our insecurities as we feel. Developing this awareness and watching this video and looking at topics like this and having these conversations help develop awareness. And when you develop awareness around those challenges, it's essential for you to thrive from it. It's essential for you to build confidence, and it's essential for you to take the steps you need to be in the place that you want to be with your emotional state, in a place you want to be with your mindset. You know what I mean? So we need to open up this. We need to make sure that this is available, that this is normalized, so that way it doesn't cause people to form syndromes such as imposter syndrome. It causes people to feel a little bit more safe to just be themselves and to just let things flow without having to put the whole world on their shoulders. So try not to be hard on yourself. It's not going to be easy. I'm not telling you to push yourself into a certain state of being, but just love yourself enough and believe in yourself enough that you'll be able to do that you will be able to have moments where you find grace and you find acceptance in everything that you are, without feeling like you have to go the extra mile, or without feeling like you are doubting whether you are authentic or whether you're a fraud with your skills, your expertise, your passions, your knowledge, anything it may be. I hope this has been helpful. Pay it forward and have a good mental health day. Thank you.